Peridot betraying the crystal gems, that I saw coming in the near future. And as of last episode, when she grabbed the doohickey from the moon base, it was obvious she was going to use it to contact Homeworld. But Peridot rebounding and becoming a full-fledged crystal gem in the same goddamn episode as her betrayal? How the bloody hell does one predict that? Seriously, I did not see a path for such an event at the start of this episode, but surprisingly, it worked out phenomenally. Jam-packing both a betrayal and a redemption into just 11 minutes?
This is blasphemy. This is madness.
This is Steven Universe!
But really, I mean it, to have two major events unfold like this so close together and make it work, that is a feat worthy of major praise. Message received begins with Steven's patience toward Peridot reaching its maximum, and he gives her one final chance to redeem herself before he finally accepts her as the opposing side. While Peridot gives a speech that seems to unambiguously align her to Homeworld, and more specifically to Yellow Diamond, this speech, full of acclamation about how Yellow Diamond is perfectly flawless and objective, is the very thing which will mark the pivotal moment in Peridot's rebound back to the side of the crystal gems later in the episode. It is vital to note, however, that Peridot's plan at this point in time was to use the communicator to explain to Yellow Diamond that Earth is useful in its current state of existence and thus the cluster should be deactivated. There was a lack of effective communication between Peridot and Steven, and we as an audience as well were not able to grasp what Peridot had in mind in the first half of this episode. Of course, the crystal gems wouldn't approve of contacting Yellow Diamond even if they did realize Peridot's plan was ultimately to save the Earth, but initially they don't even realize she's trying to save the planet. This plan has been on Peridot's mind since the end of It Could Have Been Great. It's not something Peridot decides to spontaneously say after making the call to Yellow Diamond. This was the entire reason for the call in the first place. Peridot legitimately thinks this is the best way to preserve the planet and stop the cluster.
Now I'm gonna do this right!
Even though her actions come off as treachery to everyone else. This is the first time Steven has faced personal betrayal to this level. His patience completely expired, and even though his depressed state of mind was relatively short, I think it still serves as a valuable moment of growth for Steven. Maybe in the end, with Peridot rebounding back to the side of the crystal gems, Steven did take away the message to never give up hope after all, but I really hope that isn't the case. I would prefer that Steven shed at least a small amount of naivete on this day. Garnet's line of,
"But the truth is, not everyone deserves that patience,"
really cuts deep in this moment, but I'm glad Garnet gave Steven this harsh yet loving honesty. I have to mention, since I've seen the following episode, Log Date 7152, that Garnet had recently used her future vision to know Steven would listen through Peridot's logs. I'd like to discuss how that event relates to Garnet and her behavior in this episode, but since that's going to generate a lot of speculative banter and relates to 2 episodes rather than 1, I'm dedicating a separate video to that topic so that I can continue ahead with this episode review. Before we get to the big kahuna herself, Yellow Diamond, let me get my 2 small gripes with this episode quickly out of the way. And they are really small, I'm just nitpicking minor errors here, but I gotta do it. My first gripe has to do with the storyboarding for when Steven wrestles with Peridot. They are right next to the rest of the crystal gems. Steven and Peridot are both yelling, so they should be easily audible too, but nobody helps Steven restrain Peridot or takes the communicator away from her. Steven and Peridot wrestle for a full 20 seconds. I timed it. While apparently Pearl, Garnet, and Amethyst are just standing there frozen? Really? I always notice stuff like this in movies and TV shows, and it always drives me nuts. Because it's not difficult to fix these issues. You just need to storyboard the scene slightly differently. My other gripe is simply that this episode may have been a tad rushed in the animation department. Character faces have less detail than usual and deviate from the norm a bit, which ends up with faces looking awkward on multiple occasions. Of course, neither of these 2 things are deal breakers at all. This episode was completely stellar. So yes, it's time for the section on Yellow Diamond! What was my first reaction to this ruler of gems? Holy hell, her neck is really long! Like, yeah, it's long in the extended intro, and it's long in her mural, but that just doesn't prepare you to see it in person. It fits really well in that she's a character who's supposed to look down on you, though. Anime and cartoons have long used a certain framing technique and elongation of the neck to make a character feel like they have this smug sense of superiority or authority. And with Yellow Diamond, it feels like she's in this state non-stop due to how long her neck is. She has a tone of supreme authority, and the scene plays out like a grim schoolteacher scolding an insolent child. Yellow Diamond's voice works really well for this purpose. That older, more refined edge her voice has contributes a lot to establishing the type of character she is. But did I feel fear seeing her on screen? Nah, not really. Her slow head turn in the extended intro was immeasurably more menacing than her appearance here. So I think the real goods as far as feeling actual dread will be saved until the day Yellow Diamond makes her appearance in the flesh. In the rock? In the mineral? Whatever. Speaking of that, Yellow Diamond clearly dislikes organic life and thinks it inferior, and I believe this in part is why her color scheme is so monotonous. Her appearance has this hard-to-describe, inorganic sensation that the other gems we've seen so far lack, and it definitely goes a long way to distinguish her from the rest. Real quick, let's talk about Yellow Diamond's Pearl. I like her. After seeing Blue Diamond's Pearl in the answer, I was afraid all pearls by default would be devoid of character and act like lifeless dolls or something. But nope, this Pearl is high-strung, opinionated, smug, cocky as hell. This really establishes that pearls are like maids. They serve their diamonds without question, but they are still individuals and not merely coat racks, even on Homeworld. While the personalities of the pearls are likely to be a compliment to their owner, I'm just really glad they have varying personalities at all. So Peridot becomes a traitor to her homeworld. I can see how her turnaround could feel rushed to some, because so much is thrust upon the viewer all at once, but personally, I don't think it was rushed at all. The groundwork for this event had been well established beforehand, and all it took to bring Peridot over the edge was the realization that, basically, she had a false idol. Peridot has been in constant limbo for some time now, trying to attain an understanding of how things are done on Earth while fighting with her homeworld perspectives and tendencies. After all was said and done though, she saw the value of Earth and took it to heart. The next episode, log date 7152, retroactively establishes just how strong of a bond she had formed with everyone and the planet itself. But even ignoring the episode to come, I think it was already well established that Peridot had begun to acclimate and appreciate everything around her. But being reminded of what is essentially her deity when visiting the moon base, Peridot decided to save the planet in a way she thought befitting of homeworld society, by letting her deity know of the potential Earth holds. I think it's a safe assumption Peridot has never seen Yellow Diamond face to face before, much less conversed with her. That diamonds are superior to all other gems seems to be a thing ingrained into gems since their creation, akin to a Dear Leader type of scenario. To take the comparison even further in regards to Yellow Diamond specifically, here's a description of Kim Jong-il. He demanded absolute obedience and agreement from his ministers and party officials with no advice or compromise, and he viewed any slight deviation from his thinking as a sign of disloyalty. Yeah, to me, that screams Yellow Diamond. So Peridot meets her idol, her deity, her personification of what perfection is, and as soon as she offers her thoughts, she is shut down. But not because of logic, not because of any sort of rational argument, but because of a simple whim. Yellow Diamond holds a grudge against the planet Earth and wants it gone. Potential be damned. What sort of advancement it could mean for Gem society? Screw that. The good it can do for Gemkind? That's not of interest or concern. Peridot, who lauds objectivity more than anything else, has all of her ideas brushed aside due to a simple, petty desire. So the image of Yellow Diamond as the
most perfect, the most reasonable, rational, efficient decider ever to exist in the universe.
That is shattered right there. And Peridot, caught up in the moment, rejects her false idol by insulting her straight to her face, which means there is no going back. By rejecting a diamond, she has essentially rejected Homeworld itself. Peridot, you're a crystal gem now. Although the indoctrination of seeing diamonds as absolute supreme authority will undoubtedly take a while to cleanse.
Ugh.